Hello everyone. Hope you guys are doing great. Okay, so let me share the screen and today we have very interesting topic which is SD-WAN. So basically SD-WAN is nowadays a very much popular, right? Why? Let us understand and believe me, SD-WAN have lot of things. In NSE4 it is just a basic introduction kind of configuration. So if you really wish to go deeper into the SD-WAN, so for that you need to buy a different course which is already listed on our official website TJMacad. So you can click on visit the tjmacad.com, go to the video section, and here you can search for SD-WAN, and you can see almost 10 hours video course is available. So you can just go and buy that if you really wish to go deeper into the SD-WAN section. Okay, now let us start. What is exactly SD-WAN? So the full form of SD-WAN is software defined networking, right? So why it is known as the software defined networking? Because everything is taken care by the software, right? So here you can see it's a basic understanding of the SD-WAN. In early days we were used to, when the technology was not there, so we were used to take the paper map along with us whenever we were, try to visit some unknown place. So we carry generally the paper maps. So by looking at that paper map, definitely we were, uh, getting directions, where we are reached now, where we need to go, which direction. So it kind of a very struggling period was there, right, to reach the destination. But nowadays we have the technology, right? So we have the technology, we have the dynamic updated map nowadays, right, from the Google, or maybe there are some other companies also, they have implemented that. So now it is not that difficult. You don't have to buy a paper map now, because the digital map which is already there available on the cloud, so you can use that. And there are a lot of benefits, right? Say for example, you have going from Jodhpur to Delhi, and you may directly at this starting point you may find some route through the maybe Ajmer or Jaipur, via Jaipur. But say for example you just near to the Jaipur, but you can easily see that in after 2 kilometers, or maybe after 4 kilometers or 10 kilometers, there is a huge traffic, right? So easily we can identify, but by just looking at the map, right? Because the color, if somewhere it is very much huge traffic, so definitely the route color will be in red. So you can easily identify and you can find the alternate way from there, right? If the alternate option is available, so definitely you can take that route and you can skip the traffic. So that is the advantage by having the advanced technology. And these all drawbacks were there when we were used to carry the paper maps. Now same technology help us to avoid the traffic in the networking by using the SD-WAN. Say for example, now you are working for some organization, and that organization have taken two ISP connection, so that if one ISP goes down, or maybe have some issues in the transmit of data, so in that case you can go directly and use the alternate option which you have. But how you are going to identify which ISP is working perfectly fine? So manually it is not easy to find the issue with the which as ISP is having what kind of issues, right? So to avoid that, to automatically identify, so we have the SD-WAN technology. So that is why we call it as software defined networking, right? So you can see, so what is software defined network? Basically it's a comprehensive multi connection WAN solution, is called the SD-WAN. It can be said that it is replaced everything, right? So SD-WAN is a virtual interface that consists of group of member interfaces, which are the physical interfaces of the ISP termination. And you can see there are a lot of things which you can just go through. You can download this PDF and you can go through one by one. There is a SD-WAN zone, there is a SD-WAN advantage. You can see, you can go through that. Then there is a member, which is the physical interfaces we are talking about. Then there is a best solution in the SD-WAN is performance SLA. So basically this is the option which actually do health check on all the ISP termination links, right? Automatically it identify which ISP's network is as of now working perfectly fine, and whichever the best as of now. So definitely your data will be transmitted through that particular ISP. Okay, so that is the performance SLA. So there are certain SD-WAN rule as well. You can manually define if the source is this and destination is this. So definitely it should take this ISP connectivity, right? If that is not alternate available, then in that case automatically it will switch the traffic to the alternate option which is available, right? So basically there are some terminologies like bandwidth, congestion, then delay, right? And there is a jitter. So basically what is jitter? Jitter means a time taken by a packet from one point to another point, right? So that is, we call it as jitter. Latency, then there is a packet loss, right? A lot of things. You can go with the strategies, like you can configure manually, you can go with the automatically selection by based on the best quality of the ISP link termination. You can go with the SLA, lowest cost of the internet connectivity. Then you can go with the maximum bandwidth so that you can get the maximum benefit of that particular route. So definitely you can go with that as well. And the best quality strategy, there are a lot of things you can define, right? Everything is covered there in the SD-WAN. So let us, because we do not have that much of covered in the SLA NSE4. So let's start and create the topology. So what I'll do is I'll just take the FortiGate firewall. I'll take one FortiGate firewall because I do not have the multiple ISP with me. So what I'm going to do is I'll go with the, what is happening, just a minute. So I'll just go with the router. I'll consider this router as ISP, and let me have Windows computer so that we can check the configuration. And let me take one bridge and one management interface, MGMT. That's it. Okay, now let us connect together each and every point. What I'll do is I'll just connect the two links from the router, and we'll consider one as ISP1 and second as ISP2. Okay, everything we have connected. Let me streamline a bit. Okay, now let me start the device, and by the time devices are getting ready, so what we can do is we can write the IP addresses used there in the network. So this is going to be there in the local area network, and we'll go with ISP1. And for ISP1, let me configure the network, which is 10.0.0/8. So let's consider the above link is representing as ISP1, and the below link, let's consider this is the ISP number 2, where we have the network from 11.0.0/8. Now let me write the IP address 10.0.0.1/8. So this IP address is going to be here. Let me duplicate this, and the second IP address is going to be here. And let me duplicate this again. So here it is. So let me define the IP, that is 10.0.0.2. And here we will have the 11 network, right? And here we will have the 11.0.0.2, right? So for the management interface, let's go with the IP 192.168.10.47/24. Let's go with this. Okay, so let me do a management configuration on firewall. admin. There is no password. 123 and 123. Let's go with the config system interface. Add it port 1, and let me set mode to static and set IP, that is 192.168.10.47/24, and set append, sorry, not set, append allow access HTTP and end. Okay, so let's access the firewall through the browser, HTTP, then 192.168.10.47. Let's wait for sometimes. By the time, let me see whether the booting process is completed on the router. Okay, so router is still under the booting process, so let's wait for that. The computer is ready, so let me log in into it. Let me configure the IP address on this computer, ncpa.cpl. Restart later. Right click on this link interface, sorry, the NIC card, IPv4 properties, and here we'll say 172.16.0.2, and gateway is going to be, there is no requirement of DNS because we do not have the directly connectivity to internet. So let's restart later. Let me close this. Now let us access the router or the firewall. Let me log in into it. I'm not going to do the basic configuration later, and let me deny this network, and let's go click on the interface. And you can see port number 3 we are treating as ISP1, right? So before that, let me change the IP on this virtual interface, 14.0.0.0.1/8. Okay, so port number 3 we are treating that as ISP1. So I'll just label it with ISP-1. Otherwise, it is WAN only. So 10.0.0.1/8, and allow the administrative access, whatever you feel like. And port number 2 we have as ISP2. Port number 2, let's configure this as ISP-2, ISP2, and let me roll as WAN. So 11.0.0.1/8, and now we have the port number 4 as LAN. Let's go with the LAN. So IP, here we have the class B IP address. Let's go with that. Okay, there is no actually requirement to configure the DNS, but so that it should look real, so I'm going to configure this. Otherwise, there is no requirement. Okay, so now what we need is, let's go with the SD-WAN. Let's click on the SD-WAN. Okay, first of all, in SD-WAN, what we need is, you can see we have 3 options available. If the firewalls are new or maybe old, I don't remember that. Maybe somewhere you will find these 3 options straight one below the SD-WAN. First of all, it is written like SD-WAN zone, then SD-WAN rules, then the performance SLA. But in some firewall, you will see there is written SD-WAN. Under the SD-WAN option, you will see all 3 options together. Okay, so it depend on the model to model. So first of all, let us configure the SD-WAN zone. Okay, so let's click on the create new SD-WAN zone. Let me name it, or maybe I'll name it as TGM-SD-WAN. There is no interface available as of now because we are creating for the first time. So let's configure the zone. You can see we have created the zone. Again, click on the create. Now we have to click on the SD-WAN member, right? So we need to define which interface belongs to the which zone. So ISP1, definitely it is also part. It is also going to be part of SD-WAN only. So what is the next gateway for ISP1? So next hop IP address is going to be 10.2, right? So let me write here 10.0.0.2. automatically this SD-WAN red will become turn into a green, because as of now there is no interface. Now we have the interface connected to this. You can see the color of the SD-WAN converted into green. Now we have the another ISP. So let me click again, select the ISP2, again put that into the same SD-WAN zone. Now we have the 11.0.0.2, right? So let's click on OK. So now you can see we have created the SD-WAN, and you can see we have some traffic on this particular SD-WAN, which is on ISP1, right? So let's forget about that. So now let me go back to the firewall policy. Okay, let me click on the firewall policy, and let's us create the firewall policy LAN to WAN, LAN to WAN. Now interface, of course it is going to be LAN, and outgoing interface will going to select the SD-WAN, right? So automatically the moment you select the outgoing as SD-WAN zone, so automatically it is going to consider both the ISP, or maybe you have 3 ISP or maybe 4 ISP, right? All the ISP which you have created the member of this SD-WAN zone, so all the ISP will be considered directly into it. Okay, so source definitely any source can go through this, and any destination services definitely all we need net, because it is going to translate between the private and public network. Let me click on the all session to log, and we have created the policy. Okay, so we have created the policy because we are working with the SD-WAN. So we are working with the SD-WAN. There are a lot of options, right? There are a lot of, you can see ISP1 and ISP2, both the links have the same as of now have the same you can say the performance. But whenever we going to configure the SD-WAN rule and performance SLA, then in that case, if automatically it will detect which ISP is going to be considering into or less, and which ISP is performing better, so automatically it is going to sync that and manage the traffic as per the link status. Now because we have the multiple links to destination like to internet, so what we need is we need to configure, let me log in into it. We need to configure the load balancing, right? So how to configure the load balancing? Let's go with the config system SD-WAN. We need to, not the SD connection, SDN connection, is should be SD-WAN, right? Here if I write show, right, if I write show, you can see we do not have any option listed here as the load balancing. So what we need is, we need just a minute, it is creating a issue. Let me refresh this. I think there is an issue. There is an issue with the lab. Let me see here. Let's wait. We have some issue with the lab. So I don't think here it is. So let me power off this, and let me restart. Let me restart the EVNG. Let's wait for the EVNG to start again. Okay, it's ready. So let us restart, login into it. So the username is admin EVE. And let me refresh once again. Okay, so we are logged in, right? So let us start all the devices again. I think there must be some issue. Let's wait for some time. Our devices are getting ready. Still the booting process is going on. Let's wait. Let me see. Okay, let me start normally. And you can see the booting process is going on. Okay, so firewall is ready. Let me log in into it. Okay, it's creating a problem. Just let me log in into it. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so firewall is ready. Let me access through this. 1, 2, 3. Let us check first of all the configuration which we have done. It is still there or it is wiped out. Interfaces are perfect. Okay, no problem. DNS is there. SD-WAN is configured perfect. And let me go with the firewall policy. Even the firewall policy is perfectly working fine. Okay, now, okay, you can see it's again creating some problem. So let us see. Let it be. Let's continue with the lab. If it create a lot of problems, then we'll look into it. I think the issue with this router, let me stop the firewall and let me stop the router as well. Let me add one more hard disk to it. I think the issue with the EVNG memory. So that's why I have just created the another hard disk of 20 GB. Okay, so the software is ready, no problem. So let me log in here, admin and EVE. This time it is perfectly working one, but still I don't want to take a risk of that. Let me delete this router and retake another router. And let us connect the port number 2 and port number 3. Okay, perfect. Okay, so now let me start the firewall first and let's wait for the completion of booting process. So it is going to take time, no problem. We'll be sure about this, that the problem was there with the router. Okay, so by the time the firewall is getting ready, so what we need is to check the connectivity. So we will create a loop back interface where we will interface 0 and we will where we will assign the IP, that is 1.1.1.1/32, and we will create another loopback, port number 1, where we will assign the IP 2.2.2.2/32. Okay, so that's the IP address we are going to configure on this particular router, right? As just for the testing purpose. Okay, now let me log in into firewall. So admin password is 123. Do it later on. Firewall policy, everything looks perfect. There is no error as of now. So now let me start the router as well. Let me double click here. So router will take some time to get start to complete the booting process. So let's wait for some time. And you can see the booting process is going on. Let's wait some more time. Let's wait for the completion of this booting process, because whatever the configuration, initial configuration we need to do on the firewall, we have created that. Okay, now we need to configure the router as well. Okay, let's do one thing. Now you can see we have created the configured the SD-WAN as of now, but we have two virtual interfaces, right, where we need to go test the possibilities the of the connection. So what we can do is we can just go with the static route. Let me click on the create. By default, in a real scenario, what do you have to do? Just leave it as default. Here you can just go and select the SD-WAN. But because we have a specific destination where we want to reach, so what I'll do, I'm going to write that IP address, which is 1.1.1.1/32. If this destination, the destination is this, then it should go with the SD-WAN. That's the first option. Second option, if the destination is 2.2.2.2/32, then also it should go with the SD-WAN, right? So that's the configuration I have done, because we are not you go directly connecting to internet, just to test this SD-WAN connectivity, the configuration. So we have created two loopbacks, right? So let's wait for the so we have created two links as a static route. Now let us see, the router is ready, almost ready. Okay, so by the time it is getting ready, so what we can do is we can just log in into this computer. So this computer is still under booting process. Let's wait for some time. Let me see the router. Okay, router is ready almost. Okay, so let me enable, go to global configuration. Okay, so we are on configuration. So let me go to the interface G0/1. Let me configure the IP address 10.0.0.2 space 255.0.0.0 and no shutdown. Second interface we have is G0/0 and IP address going to be 11.0.0.2, 255.0.0.0, and no shutdown. Let's create the virtual interface loopback 0. IP address going to be 1.1.1.1, 255.255.255.255, right? So no shutdown. There is no requirement of no shutdown because it's a virtual interface which rely always on your physical interface. So let me create the another loopback 1. IP address going to be 2.2.2.2 and 255.255.255.255, and let's say hit no shutdown. So let me exit from here. Okay, let's go back to global configuration. Why? Because if we need to connect, check the connectivity from this computer, so what we want is we want the reverse route, right? So we want reverse route, so definitely we are going to configure with the help of static route. So IP route. So if this particular router receive anything related to 172.16.0.0/16, let me space to 255.255.0.0, it should forward to 10.0.0.1, and we have the alternate option also 11.0.0.1. Now if I check show IP route, and you can see we have the load balancing for this particular network, the local area network, and we have all the network which are connected between the firewall and router. Okay, we have done the configuration on router. Now it is time to check the connectivity, right? For that, let us log in into this computer. We have the policy configured. Now what we want is, before testing, let us access the firewall so that we can enable the load balancing. Okay, login with admin, password is 123, and here you need to write config system SDWAN, and if I click on show, and you will see there is no load balancing concept configured as of now. So what we need is we need to enable. So set load balance mode, and if I show the option which are available, right? So you can see we in I think very starting of the course, in one of the class we have covered the ECMP, and under the ECMP you can see we have also learned about the source and IP based configuration, which is by default as of now configured. There is a wait option available, there is a users base option available, and now because we want to go with the load balancing option, so that both the interface should be used simultaneously. So what we can do is we have to go with the source destination IP base. So we'll write source destination IP base and end, so to configure, and that's all. Okay, so now if I minimize this, and you can see, let's log in into this computer. So we are already there. So now let us check the connectivity. So let's go to CMD and try to ping 1.1.1.1, and you can see we are reachable to 1.11. Now if I again open a separate CMD option and try to ping 2.2.2.2, and you can see we are also able to reach the second loopback interface also, right? So both the interface, virtual interface, we are able to reach. That's not the problem. Okay, now you can see, let me log in into this, and let us see which policy, which link has been used. So to check that, you can go click on the SDWAN, right? Under the SDWAN, you can see the ISP1 is as of now, handling the traffic. ISP1 is handling all the traffic. So what I want is, I want if some computer, if any computer, try to reach the 2.2.2, it should always go with the ISP2. In case ISP2 is not available, then in that case, no doubt, it is automatically going to select the handle the traffic through the ISP1. But if the ISP2 is available, so we need the traffic to reach through the ISP2. So for that, what you need to do is you need to create SD-WAN rule. By default, you can see there are a lot of options available, like source, IP, spillover, source destination, volume, right? So definitely you are going to cover all that the options there in the SD-WAN course. So now let me click on create, and I'll name it as, let's say, if the destination is 2.2.2.2/32, right? So it's just a name, just for my understanding. If the source is any, right, source I don't have to bother about. Even if you have the specific computer to reach this, and then in that case should go with specific route, you can go with that also. But I'm just focusing on the destination part. But let me create the destination. So if it is 2.2.2.2/32, color, let me select the red one. Subnet, let's go with the subnet, and 2.2.2.2 and /32. And if the IP is this, then it should go with the ISP2, right? Let me enable, create this. So let me select here, and under the outgoing interface, let me select the under the strategy. Basically, let me select the manual, and here I will assign the ISP2, right? I think here I have assigned the ISP, which ISP2. Okay, perfect. So I have selected the ISP2, and let me click on OK. There are a lot of options. We are not covering that because it will take a lot of time, and that is not the syllabus of NSA4, right? So you can see we have created one policy. If any computer try to reach this destination, it should always go with the ISP2. Now, if the destination is not this, then in that case, which ISP to be used? So definitely we need to create the root uh, rule for that as well. So let me name it as all dash other. If the source is all and destination is all, right, go with the manual, then it should go with the ISP1. Okay, and even if you can select the ISP2 as well, in case ISP1 is not available, so it will go with the ISP2 as well. Okay, so you can see that's the perfect option as of now. So I am going to refresh this, and you can see automatically ISP1 here and ISP2 is selected here as of now, right? So now let us check the connectivity. If something is going to the 2.2.2.2, right, it should always prefer to go with the first policy, right? Let me refresh this, and you can see earlier it the hit count was 0, now it is 1, right? So basically the moment we have try to reach the 2.2.2, so it is started using this particular policy, which is the first policy. Now if I try to reach some other destination, let me go with the 1.1.1.1. Let me click continue to ping this. So definitely it is going to use the second option as well. And you can see hit count from 5 to it now increasing by now it is 6. So you can see ultimately whatever the condition you have, right, you can go and configure there in the SD-WAN. But apart from that, you need to take care of the rules, like which rule should be hit first, right? As per the firewall policy, the same rules are applicable for this SD-WAN rules as well. Which policy to be hit first and which rule to be hit after the you need to arrange the SD-WAN rules as per the requirement. Okay, now the final option which we have is performance SLA. So let me click on create new, and I'll name it as TGM-SLA. Okay, dash is not accepted. Okay, wait a minute. So I'll go with the underscore, and you will learn everything in the SD-WAN, like what is active, passive, and passive preferred ping, HTTP, DNS. So I'm just going with the default 1.1.1.1, and let me add 2.2.2.2. So just I'll show the SLA. I'll leave it the default jitter threshold limiter default. The latency threshold limiter is default. Packet loss is, let me change this to 1. And you can see if we click on this, right, slowly, gradually, we'll see all the parameters, and you can see here it is, right? As of now, everything looks perfectly fine. But even though it is a virtual link, and you can see the difference, right? Both the what do you call, the virtual interface are not performing performance as same, right? So one ISP is, you can see it's port number 2, right? You can click and check on that. So it is SLA, and you can see there is a difference of data transmission, even though it is both the interfaces are in virtual. But still, by looking at the graph, you can easily imagine, you can easily see that the traffic from one network is port number 3, which is port number 3. ISP1 is performing better than the ISP2, right? So automatically, so now you don't have to worry about anything. Automatically the data is handled by the SD-WAN. So that's the complete configuration of SD-WAN. So you can see the data, you can see the download, you can see the upload, right? Which ISP has been used most, you can check from here as well. So that's the basic configuration available there in the NSE4 we have done so far. So if you guys have any doubt, definitely you can make a note of that, so that during the doubt session we can cover your doubts, right? So that's all for today's session. I'll see you guys in the next session. Till then, stay safe. Goodbye.